This is the Mobile Tech Podcast, brought to you by worldpodcasts.com. Now here's your host, Tank Girl, Miriam Joie.
Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Joie, and I am joined today by Richard Lai.
Hello.
Hey, Richard.
Thanks for having me. Oh, I'm all right.
Well, thanks for having me. So, we kind of lied to you all and got you all going thinking you were going to hear about phones, but really this is a cooking show. It's called The Fearless Kitchen, and we're going to be talking about food.
Yes, that's right.
That is a big lie, actually. So, if you hear banging behind me, it's because the construction has suddenly begun at 8:30, just as I'm starting the podcast. My neighbors upstairs are getting their apartment redone. And it is a nightmare. They're building a condo across the street. You've been to my house, Richard.
Yeah, that's right. You mean the one with the poker stop? Is that the one?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
So no, we're kidding. Fearless Kitchen is a bit of a joke because when I posted about the podcast on my Facebook, that was the photo that popped up from the World Podcast website. World Podcast is the podcast empire. No, it's probably not an empire, but that is taking care of the technical and what is the word? Operational aspects of this podcast so that I can bring it to you weekly. So hopefully, this will happen all the time now. All the time, Richard.
You can get a lot of Miriam. Maybe, was it a monthly or what do you reckon?
That's dangerous.
Oh.
You're breaking up a little.
You're breaking
it's okay,
up.
You're back. So here's a question. What phone do we start talking about first? It's kind of like the elephant in the room because you were at the event in Taipei last night. Do you want to introduce it?
Well, yeah, it's the HTC U11, the successor to, some say it's the successor to the U Ultra, but it's actually the successor to the HTC 10, which you can tell by the name. And it's kind of like the part of the whole new thing that HTC's got going on. They've stopped the... first of all, they actually stopped calling phones the M8 or M whatever. So that was with the 10, and now they're doing this whole U campaign. So they want to not make phones that actually know you. You get it?
Yeah, I get it. But what do you think? Isn't that BS? I think it's a load of... this naming, we went from M to kind of A as a detour to nothing and now to U. Why couldn't they just call it the HTC 11?
I have no idea. You know what? Actually, I was in a group interview today with the, yesterday by the time you guys listened to it, the president of smartphones and connected devices at HTC, Jialin Zhang. Someone actually asked that same question. Why call it the U11? Why not just 11? Or why not U1? Because since they're making this like a kind of a new thing, this is the next 20 years at HTC, And he thought for a second. He didn't know how to answer that. And
wow.
He said he never saw it as a problem. And then he actually blurted out that it was actually his boss who came up with this name, and his boss being Cher Wang, the CEO.
Of course, you're not going to argue with Cher. No. She's mean.
Yeah, so
I'm totally making it up, guys. Okay, so yeah.
Yeah, well, but it's kind of silly of Charlie to say that because why put your own boss on the spot, right? But yeah, going back to the question,
he's going to get fired.
Maybe, I don't know. But going back to your question, I have no idea. But it's the U11. We're stuck with that name, and that's it. But it would have been fun to call it the U1 because then next year they maybe collaborate with the U2 band.
Oh yeah, that would be funny.
That would be
the thing that strikes me that I don't understand very well is the U Ultra was not a very successful launch, right? The phone has its issues. They've been well documented. I have one actually, and I like it, but it's too big. And the lack of headphone jack, and let's talk about that because that's an ongoing thing. The lack of headphone jack is really vexing to me still because, as you know, I use, and you do too, right? We both use very nice, high quality a bunch of them, headphones that are 3.5 millimeters, headsets, earbuds, whatever you want to call them. And then the U Ultra wasn't waterproof. So it had a lot of issues. It was very bulky, and it was beautiful, though. Like, I have the blue one, and I think it's great. But I feel that because of that alone, I'm surprised they went with the name, because I just thought like it was just kind of like the U Ultra was kind of like a thing on the side. You know, let's try this. Let's probe the market, see how it goes, right?
Mm. Yeah, well, the thing is, at least HTC made up for that, for the lack of headphone jack by actually adding a feature, a practical feature to the USB headphone, which is the U Sonic. So on the Ultra, you're able to use this feature to do a very, like, almost an instantaneous ultrasonic scan of your ear canals, so that it adjusts the, what do you call that? Would you say the audio signature of the headphones? So that it compensates, it knows how sensitive you are to certain frequencies, or not as sensitive to certain frequencies, so that it would adjust those kind of areas to give you a fuller, richer sound. So, and suddenly you're hearing a lot more detail. It's actually pretty amazing. Like, if you guys ever get to try the U-Sonic headphones, which only work on these, the HTC U devices, by the way, it's definitely worth checking out. Hearing is believing. So there's that. And this time around on the U11, they've added active noise cancellation. And again, this is all done through USB. No batteries required in the actual earphones themselves. So, you know, if you look at it that way, it seems like a fair deal. And for me, I actually, I as you mentioned, I do have some, not many, but I do have some nice wired headphones. But I also, a lot of times I also use my Bluetooth earphones, because I'm a big fan of Parrot, and I use the Parrot 6.3 a lot of times, especially when I'm on a plane. Right. So when I use Bluetooth, then Bluetooth headphones, and obviously this the lack of a headphone jack is not really an issue for me. But it is true that I've had certain situations where my phone was running low on battery, but you know, I wanted to listen to music while charging the phone at the same time, which is not possible on phones without a headphone jack, unless of course you use Bluetooth. But you know. Sometimes. So you touched on a few things that I think are you know, pretty like issues on which I clearly have opinions. Well, look, I think I agree with you. So you know, I don't know if you know, in the US we got the HTC Bolt. Oh gosh, which not my favorite design, but yeah, go on.
No, but it had the ultrasonic sensing headphones built in. Mm-hmm. Like in the box. So I've tried them, and honestly, maybe my hearing is really good. I mean, I know my hearing is actually pretty good, because, you know, I've worked in audio for many years, and I keep an eye on it. I used to work in audio research, so I can actually test my own hearing. But the thing is, I did not notice a difference in the sound quality of the earphones after running the ultrasonic test. First of all, and secondly, honestly, those earbuds sound like crap to me. Yeah, I don't want them. I'm not interested. And if the ones that add noise reduction are the same quality, I'm still not interested. The one that came with the U Ultra also do the ultrasonic scan. Right. And again, I think they're identical to the ones on the Bolt. Look, I am all in favor of supporting USB Type-C audio. There is no reason why it shouldn't happen. I mean, the port is there. But at the same time, there's also no reason on a flagship like Samsung did. They showed the way. I thought Samsung was going to get rid of the headphone jack in the Galaxy S8. And they didn't, which basically means one thing. The industry is not convinced that we're going to need to drop the headphone jack yet. Right. And to me, that was very reassuring. So I would have loved to see a headphone jack on the HTC U11, simply for the fact that right now I'm wearing 20-year-old Beyerdynamic GT990. They're phenomenal. I love them. They're affordable. They sound great. They work with anything. I just like the sound quality of the HTC phones has always been so good since the M7 that I want to enjoy that with anything. And right now, you're going to say, okay, they included an adapter for the first time. But the fact that I have to say for the first time is ridiculous. The fact that they didn't have an adapter for the HTC Bolt or the U Ultra means that I have never listened to audio on these devices. ever. I have no idea what they sound like with headphones. And because I don't use Bluetooth very much, I mean, the only way I listen to wireless audio is through aptX. I will not do regular A2DP unless I'm in the car. That's a different thing. But over headphones, it's going to have to be aptX.
Yeah,
and so I don't really have any aptX capable devices that I really love. I have some that are okay, but not some that I really love. So basically, I have not used audio on an HTC phone since the 10. And the 10 was amazing. And I was really hoping that I have this headphone jack so that I have the choice. Like, there's no reason they can't do both. And that's what drives me nuts.
I absolutely agree. I should have added that the Usonic earphones aren't the best earphones out there in terms of sound quality. So, yeah, they finally figured out that they were meant to include the dongle. But even that sounds stupid.
It's crazy to me that it took them that long to figure that out.
But hey, you know what? iPhone... Yeah. Apple's doing that.
Well, but they include the dongle. They include the dongle from day one.
Yeah, but that still doesn't solve the issue of doesn't solve the time. Help the times when you need to charge the phone while you want to also listen to music at the same time.
And that's my point. It's like, Le Eco can get away with it. Moto's going back to headphone jacks from all the leaks we've seen of the Z2. So we know that Moto's done. And the fact that Samsung and LG didn't jump ship means that we're going to be stuck with a headphone jack for a while longer. And I say stuck in a good way. I'm happy about this. Yeah. And yet HTC is just stubbornly like, I'm serious. If I had been them, I would have said, you know what? Let's push this Usonic stuff. And at the same time, put a headphone jack on there. Like, be the heroes that we are. Like, nobody else is doing the Usonic stuff. The other thing that bugs me, I don't know if you know this, Richard. I actually talked to Nilay at The Verge about this back when the Bolt came out, because I didn't know, like, we were just talking about something randomly on Twitter, and I just pinged him and I said, do you know this egregious thing about HTC? And I want to nail them on the cross for this, because this is ridiculous. If you use the adapter that comes with the Type-C to headphone jack adapter that comes with the Moto Z, or comes with the Le Eco, any of the Le Ecos that have a headphone jack adapter, they don't work with the HTC phones. And you know why that is? Because there's two standards over USB-C. There's an analog out over USB-C, which is what Moto Z and Le Eco support. So the dongle is super cheap. It's just a cable, right?
Yeah.
And it detects that it needs to switch some pins to analog, and it does it. And then there is the digital dongle, the digital out, which is what the Usonic uses. And so the dongle that HTC puts in the box, and probably why they didn't do it from the get-go, is actually more expensive.
Hang on. You say the Usonic earphones use digital? Correct. I don't think so. I think they use digital as for the analysis part, I think. Because I've actually plugged the HTC, the Usonic earphones into a different phone.
No, but that's always going to work, remember, because it's a USB device. I'm not talking about the other way around. You can plug the Usonic headphones in another device. It'll work. I'm talking about plugging the tiny little pigtail that came with my Moto Z or my Le Eco 3 into any of the HTC that are USB-C only, and they don't work because HTC doesn't support analog out on the USB-C, which is the standard. So the dongle they sell has a DAC and an amp in it, just like the dongle Apple makes. Right? Apple's Lightning is purely digital, the output. So that's the problem. See, this is exactly why dropping the 3.5 millimeter thing is ridiculous in general. Is because we now have three different standards to support. We have USB-C analog, USB-C digital, and Lightning digital. So now we've gone from one thing that works with everything, that is ubiquitous, that you can walk into 7-Eleven, and God bless 7-Eleven in Asia, not in the US, it sucks here. But oh my God, 7-Eleven in Asia, I can't wait to be in Taipei next week for Computex to go to 7-Eleven and get some hide shoes. Frankly, that's what it is. And so to me, the fact that they don't support, like, you don't support headphone jack means you now have to fragment the market and make people's lives miserable. Yeah. And this is exactly, it's as everybody said many times, it is hostile to consumers to drop it. Because Apple did doesn't mean you should do it too. And I'm not saying we shouldn't evolve the standards. I don't think we should push USB Type-C for audio. Absolutely. Actually, I think ideally we should push USB Type-C digital. And I think that Apple should adopt USB Type-C for their phones. Because now that they're doing it on the MacBooks, don't even get me started on this. I want to hear what your take is on that. Like, can you? Why don't they do USB-C on their phones now that they've adopted it on their laptops?
Okay, I think this is where I should talk about the iPhone 8 leak that
please do.
We published yesterday. So I got hold of some really highly detailed renders of what's supposed to be the upcoming iPhone 8. Not the anniversary model, by the way. That's a very different animal, and apparently they still haven't settled on a design for that. But according to my source, the connector, the socket area of the Lightning port at the bottom, it's slightly bigger this time, but not bigger than a USB-C.
Interesting
plug. So the theory is that Apple may be coming up with some sort of, I don't know, some special Lightning to USB-C adapter, maybe. I don't know. Something that will make it easier to go from one to the other.
Or maybe a socket that takes both? Is that what you're thinking?
Well, I don't think that's possible. There's no way you can do that, right? Because with USB-C, you need to have something that's poking out on the inside, right? Yeah, like that thing will be getting right in the way.
No, but I'm just pipe dreaming here, okay?
Yeah,
because it's Apple. They come up with innovative ways to do all kinds of things.
But you can't do that because it's the socket is too small for USB-C. But at the same time, it's bigger than the current Lightning.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So yeah,
you would have to have some sort of spring-mounted thing, and that would break, and that would not be good.
Yeah, so I don't know what's going on, and
I mean, this is my wish, right? Like, look, I'm not an iPhone user, and so I don't really care in the end. Although maybe this new iPhone will sway me, but all I know is that one of the big vexations I have with Apple right now is that I'm a Mac user, so I am actually 100% on board on USB-C. All you people who are bitching about the dongles, screw you, because you know what? I've been living with dongles forever. I had an original MacBook Air, which only had one USB port. I now have a MacBook 12-inch, which only has one USB Type-C port. And if you have a MacBook Pro, you have at least two ports, so don't complain. But at the same time, it's the future. It's the way to go. I'm glad they left the headphone jack, though. They did. They left it on their laptop. So I think the best of both worlds to me is a device that has USB for charging and data, USB-C for charging and data, maybe one or two ports, and then headphone jack, and we're done. And they're doing that with their laptops. I just want them to do that with the iPhone 8. Please, Apple. I know you want to make money off MFI. I get it. I get that dragging your customers through another transition like you did the 30-pin is going to be a pain, but you've got to do it because I live in this pipe dream. No, it's not a pipe dream. It's real. I live in this, unicorn universe where my Android phones and my Apple devices can use the same chargers. Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
You live in that world, right?
The other day I was digging through my the stash of old chargers, those power adapters, and gosh, so many different plugs, so many different kinds of cables and standards.
It's insane.
Yeah, nowadays I can just grab hold of any USB cable, any USB adapter, and boom, I'm good to go. I just need to check whether if they do quick charge or what kind of quick charge they do if I need something in a hurry. But no, we're living in a great world, except for the fact that we've still got the stupid headphone jack issue that some companies.
Oh God!
Not.
But I'm glad we talked about it.
Yeah,
I'm glad we talked about it because I think. Sorry, you're a little delayed and a little crummy sounding right now.
I have perfect signal here, so.
Oh, you're back.
Saying.
Awesome. Well, don't worry. It's cool. I just want to make sure that, I think you want to delay a little bit. I'm glad we talked about it because that's been one of my biggest gripes in the last few months is this kind of like this triple world of USB-C analog, USB-C digital, and in Lightning on these phones that don't have headphone and not being able to, and adapters are, as you said, it's a big improvement at least, but it's still not the solution. Let's talk about the other parts of the U11.
Yeah, we spent way too much time. We spent way too much time.
No, it's important. We got our rant out. This is exactly what this podcast is about.
Okay. Right, so U11. So, Snapdragon 835, which is no surprise there, but that's a good thing. Starting with 4 gigabytes of RAM, you also get there's a 6 gigabyte version, 64 gigabytes of storage, or 128 gigabytes of storage with...
Good.
micro SD expansion and
nice
dual SIM. I don't know if that's the same on the US models, but there's.
We're only getting it on Sprint here, right? And then we're getting an unlocked version officially from HTC.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there.
That's because the rest of the carriers are giving HTC the finger. That's why.
Well, or maybe
probably because of what the 10 didn't sell well, and the Bolt, they had the agreement with Bolt was an exclusive to Sprint in the US, and then the U Ultra was sold only unlocked in the US.
Yeah, that's so. Don't know what's going on with HTC these days. They used to have really, really tight relationships with pretty much anyone, even in China.
It's weird.
But yeah, I can go on and on about that. But for now, I want to focus on the device. So
sure.
And it's you've got the standard stuff. You've got that sharp. I think it's a 2K screen, 5 point something inches, and you've got that double-sided glass construction.
That looks hot to me. Like
it is super hot. So there's the.
I mean, the U Ultra is super hot, and I can only imagine that making it smaller and more manageable to hold, and water resistant. By the way, it's water resistant, dust resistant,
IP67,
and that's great. So having that to me is exciting. Tell me though, I mean, it looks like it has a lot of bezel, despite being a much smaller phone than U Ultra, because it has a normal aspect ratio screen, not like a super extended widescreen like the G6 or Galaxy S8. And it has a seat like where the glass kind of falls into the metal, right? Like the curved part seems to be not, the display is actually not curved there. So how wide is it? Like how does it feel in hand? Is it big?
It just feels like any other 5.5-inch device, really. So it's not.
So like Pixel.
What I'm
Pixel
thinking,
iPhone, or you're talking Galaxy S7 Edge?
I'm thinking more like the OnePlus 3T, that kind of. Are you talking about the in terms of grip, the feel?
Right, in terms of size, yeah, rough size of the device.
Size,
yeah,
OnePlus 3T is 5.5 inches, so there's that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
5.5 is
Quad HD resolution.
Okay. No, because 5.5, it goes from very small for a 5.5 inch like the Galaxy S7 Edge to very large for a 5.5 inch iPhone 7 Plus.
Oh, definitely not iPhone 7. You say the bezel's like thick. I don't know. That was
it looks like that in photos, in Chris's photos, that's all.
Yeah. Well, I definitely didn't notice anything like it didn't. There was nothing that stood out to me shouting, "Oh, it's super wide." No. It felt pretty
it
normal,
didn't bug
to be
you.
honest. No, it felt nice.
Okay, cool.
Felt comfortable in my hand because there's that curved back, rounded corners, rounded edges. It was nice. Obviously, with the issue with having a glass back is that you're bound to get fingerprints all over it. So yeah, there's that. But at the same time, they've come up with like 4 or 5 color options this time, and.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, in the last minute, they decided to go with a red version. But it's not just a pure red. It's how should I put it? Like they've got this kind of shine that gives you a slightly different color or shade depending on which angle you look at it. So at certain angles, you get like a blend of red and yellow. So that's where you can call it like an Iron Man theme. And then if you go all the way to the side, it's suddenly gone all kind of a dark yellowish hue. It's like it's kind of trippy. I think that's the best way to describe it.
It looks amazing. I mean, they all look amazing, and this is what I'm most excited about. Honestly, a lot of people are complaining the back is glass, blah blah blah, but I think this is hot, and the red looks super hot, and I'm super on board with this, and I think HTC did a great job. If it's anything like the U Ultra, that blue on the U Ultra you can't describe it to people. I try to capture in my Instagram. If you look at it, there's a photo of it there, and I think I had to tweak the settings 100 times to get it right.
Yeah.
It is gorgeous, though. It is beautiful, and I really think this is a masterful design. It's beautiful, and it looks so much. To me, the HTC 10 was a little disappointing in terms of design. It felt great in hand. It was really beautifully made, but it felt a little bulky, and it just in black, at least, it didn't look that great to me, or gray, or whatever that dark color was. It also chipped paint easily for some reason, at least in my review unit. I don't know. I would have liked a silver one. The bolt I have is silver, and it's much better. I much prefer the design of the bolt, despite it being a larger phone. Honestly.
I absolutely hate it. I
like the flatness in the back and the thick bezels. No. You don't, huh? That's fine.
I hate it. It feels like especially having launched the 10, and then you suddenly come out with this bolt, which is clearly a cost down design based on the 10.
Oh, I agree. The phone itself is crap. I'm not very excited about the phone. But I like the design variation on the 10 theme on the Bolt. And some people don't, and I get it. Let's talk about the camera, because it looks to me like they've taken last year's camera and added dual pixel focus, which is exciting. Is that pretty much it?
So I got to speak to someone from a few people from the camera team. It's the sensor is... so if I remember correctly, Samsung, the S8 uses a Sony sensor, right, as well?
Yes. Yeah. 333, I think. No, So I just reviewed the Galaxy S8 for Chip Chick. I should know this. It's a 333.
Okay. So according to the guys at HTC, the sensor that they're using is probably similar to what the S8 uses, but it's definitely different in the sense that the way they use dual pixel and various other things are slightly different to what Samsung uses on the S8.
So is it different software? Because the 5-axis OIS sounds new to me. That, I think, seems to be a very unique feature to the U11.
Yeah, unique.
Because nobody else has 5-axis, right? I mean,
Sony has it. Sony has it on the XS.
Oh, okay, Sony has it.
Yeah. Sony was first, maybe HTC second, which is still a good thing. You can't complain.
Because, the G4, G5, G6, and V10 and V20 of LG's phones have 4-axis, which I think was a step up from the standard 3-axis or something. I might be wrong on this, don't quote me. But it's definitely improved OIS over the competition, and for a long time I really noticed it, because I like to take manual exposures at half a second, and I can do them handheld on the G series, but I can't do them handheld on any other phone.
Well, I tell you what, though. Even though HTC's the U11 uses a Sony sensor, the actual camera module is packaged by LG. How
interesting. Yeah. So it's LG Optics probably then.
LG Innotek is the actual, subsidiary that did the packaging. So I'm guessing by packaging, LG is also supplying the image stabilization technology, except they're doing the 5-axis thing here instead of 4, which is what LG uses on its own devices, which is interesting. I noticed that because when we were doing a tour around the camera labs at HTC, I noticed that all the camera modules were placed on a tray, which had a massive label saying LG Innotek. So I asked the guys, "Hey, I thought you guys use Sony sensors here. So what's with the LG?" So they explained that it's actually a Sony sensor inside the module packaged by LG. Yeah. So it's good to see a blend of Japanese and Korean technology here.
For sure, and I like your sleuthy reporting there, noticing that detail. This is why we like having Richard Lai on the show, guys, because he knows what he's doing, what he's talking about.
When I'm awake.
So the camera looks solid. Have you used it? Are you happy? Did you anything stand out better or for worse?
No, well, unfortunately, I have yet to receive a unit, so I haven't had much hands-on time to actually go deep into the camera features. But, according to, some people don't really buy this, but, according to DxOMark, this is the U11 now. Yeah, I know.
Fuck DxOMark. Come on. Nobody believes in that stuff. Yeah. Those guys are just a crock of, anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought Nigel said on the press conference that everybody walking out of that show was going to have a U11 to take home.
That's not what I heard. I would have known.
Well, he said it in the show, so that's why I was like, I'm jealous. I'm not in Taipei. Yeah.
Well, okay. Truth be told, yes, we were expecting some samples today, but there were some last-minute changes. So hopefully I'll still be able to get hold of one before I fly back to Hong Kong. But failing that, I'm sure HTC will be able to arrange something later on. Yeah. So cool. maybe Nigel was right, but I probably didn't hear him. Yeah,
I think he might have meant maybe they're just gonna send you one or something. Yeah.
So what's also interesting is that the front-facing camera, it's still a 16 megapixel camera, except this time for some reason they decided to remove the ultra pixel feature, which would have merged the 16 megapixels down to just 4 megapixels. So it's like merging 4 pixels into one.
And that's the same camera as the Ultra, then, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so. And the reason
but they don't have OIS like on the 10, right? Because that was a great feature, front-facing as OIS.
Well, you know what? I spoke to someone else about that, and apparently they do have the stats. They do have stats saying that the OIS on the front makes very little difference because of the size of the sensor and the optics, blah blah blah. So what they're saying is they found out that they don't actually need OIS for the front camera. Doesn't contribute much. It's more useful for the main camera. So
no, that makes sense, but it also it's expensive. But you know what? It doesn't make sense to have OIS for photos, I think, but for videos, like a lot of people, like Michael Fisher loved it because he was doing selfie videos all the time with it because it was so stable.
But I'm not aware of any camera, like smartphone camera, that actually uses OIS for video. I thought it's all EIS for video.
No. Everybody's using OIS for video since Nokia. There's a few who didn't. Samsung, for the early days of their OIS, only used OIS, and Apple. Both Samsung and Apple only used their OIS for stills for a while, and then they went to add it to video. So on the G6 and the Galaxy S8 today, and in fact on most phones that have OIS, there's OIS, and then you can enable and disable digital stabilization in addition to OIS. And OIS gets you a part of the way there, and EIS just gives you the whole shebang. And then there's a Pixel who does everything with EIS and the gyros, and as we know, it kind of looks weird, but it works pretty well. In fact, Nigel in his presentation mentioned that with the combination of OIS and EIS and this 5-axis OIS, they can do it. They can do the most stable video recording on any phone. So supposedly they're beating the Pixel now.
Yeah. No, and likewise, Sony uses the 5-axis stabilization for video as well. They actually,
and I can confirm
in Hong Kong, they actually invited a bunch of tech reporters to go on a boat ride to take videos of two models doing water skiing or some stuff like that. Yeah, that was.
I can confirm from using the 10 that the front camera OIS works on video and it works really well.
Okay. Well, sadly, they have taken it away, so there's nothing we can do about it.
No, and you know what? Clearly, it's the main camera is an improvement, and the 10 was a solid camera.
Yes.
And the U Ultra rear camera is good, so this can only be better. And today you pretty much have to match the Galaxy S8 and the G6 and the and those likes. So it's getting tougher and tougher, right? To the Pixel is another really great camera phone, despite lacking OIS. Yeah. So, what else stood out? I'm trying to wrap it up with the U11 and maybe move on to some other stuff. Anything else that stood out for you? Or stood in both positive and negative?
We haven't even gotten to the unique selling point here, which is the squeeze UI. You can squeeze the phone. Yes, the
squeeze. I completely forgot. This is how excited I was about it that I forgot.
So a little while back, I don't know, maybe some folks out there might have seen that leaked video. It's like a concept video to... I guess they were discussing marketing plans. So this supposedly leaked video from HTC showed this HTC Ocean. That's the code name of the U11, by the way.
I remember that.
How you can squeeze this device to launch certain apps, and at the same time you can stroke the metal frame on either side to simulate a jog dial feature. So you can scroll through these app shortcuts or scroll through a web page, which obviously didn't quite end up on the final product, but you can still squeeze the phone. You can do so. You can customize two things. One is you can do a quick squeeze, and secondly, you can do a long squeeze. So that way you can toggle two different kind of features. One being, so maybe a short squeeze could be launching the camera, and the long squeeze could be for launching Google Assistant or whatever you want to use. And you can easily customize them inside. And you can also customize the sensitivity. And you don't have...
Cool.
And I've actually been told that a lot of people thought, like, oh, I got to squeeze it, so I got to squeeze it hard. That sounded really wrong, by the way. But you can actually lower the sensitivity so that because you really, really don't need to squeeze it hard. There's no point, because you would just hurt your own hands. But once you've sussed that out, then apparently it will become a really handy phone. Pun unintended.
It's very cool because they're using strain gauges, which is things that are used on really, it's a high like a high end sensor that's used on things like airplanes and whatever to measure strain on materials. They can embed them in the material basically, and then it just measures the deformation of the material at the micrometer level, and that's why you don't have to squeeze very hard, because as soon as it sees any kind of strain on the material, it registers it, and it's a very cool technology. I'm excited about the technology. I'm not just not convinced is going to be super useful. Like, they make it sound like it's the future of handling phones. I think it's just one of the aspects that's, Nokia was showing prototypes of phones you could bend back in the day to make them do things. This is kind of like a less extreme version of that. And I'm excited about it, but does it work though?
It works.
Have you tried it?
Yeah, it works. It really works. It's actually surprisingly sensitive, in the sense that it's accurate. And I'm just looking forward to actually tuning the sensitivity on my very own device to see how often I would actually use it without thinking too much about it. But you say you're not convinced. Let me put it this way though. Imagine using that feature, the phone would know where your fingers are, so that it knows whether you're using your left hand or right hand.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that way, once it knows which side your thumb's on, it can automatically move, I don't know, say a set of shortcut buttons closer to your thumb automatically, so that so it's like a smarter single hand mode. You see what I'm saying? So
No, I get it. Look, I'm not convinced because I haven't used it. And look, I know the technology is sound. As I was getting very excited about strain gauges just now. It's just the implementation. I'm kind of trying to see what it's going to feel and be like, and that's where I trust your input. And so, if you say it's cool, I think I'm going to believe that.
Yeah. Well. I look forward to hear what you think of it.
Ha!
Yeah.
Cool. Well, generally speaking, HTC 11, up, down, thumbs up, thumbs down. What do you think? Like, should we get excited? Should the listeners get excited?
I'm quite surprisingly excited about it, knowing all those core areas that HTC has focused on this time. So we've got the camera, we've got this funky squeeze UI thing, we've got the design. And audio, we didn't talk much about, but and I didn't get to experience too much about it today. But apparently, the speaker is even louder, more powerful this time. And it's
it's boom sound with two speakers, right?
Two? No. Well, they've been using the earpiece as the second speaker for a while now. But are
they
main
doing the thing they did? Sorry, you cut out.
You cut out. I didn't say
Sorry,
much.
are they doing the thing that the 10 did, which was like the high frequencies coming out of the earpiece and the low frequencies coming from the bottom?
I think they're doing the same thing, because I don't see a second kind of speaker on.
So it's not stereo, basically, which is to me a disappointing thing, because that was really what made boom sound. But hey,
I agree. But having said that, the main speaker module has an even larger sounding space, and they took advantage of that and made it an even louder speaker. That sounds
really intriguing to me, what they did there. Very smart, using every available of empty space in there. Yeah,
exactly. And I know I need to mention this. The U11 has 4 microphones. Not many phones have that. 4 microphones,
right?
And with those 4 microphones, you can actually record actual 3D audio when you're taking a video. And that
the last phone that had that was the 950 XL and 950 Lumia.
Wow.
They had those. Yeah. This is why you're on the show, and because and this is why you guys are listening to the show, is because we guys have been nerding out about phones for over a decade now. So we know all. We know everything about phones.
Still at school,
that's not true, because you know what I'm finding is Richard, as I'm getting older, I'm forgetting stuff about the phone. I'm like, oh yeah, somebody brings something up. I'm like, oh, I remember that. How did I forget? Right? Do you have that happen too?
Yeah, and I get scared when that happens to me because it's like maybe I actually used it for some time.
It's senility.
Yeah. So
we're getting senile. That's what.
Senile.
Like we're going to be going to like Mobile Congress with our walkers very soon, and cursing and going, kids these days, do you remember? Like they're doing everything on Snapchat. We were doing things on blogs. Remember?
Back then, we had to hold our phones with our actual hands.
That's right. We didn't have glasses that did everything for you.
You ungrateful bastards. Yeah. But anyway, so that's a U11. I like it so far. Hopefully the software's all stable and stuff. Yeah, just need to give it a little bit of proper hands-on time. Give it some,
it looks juicy and delicious to me. I'm really excited about it. I'm particularly excited about the camera, and as usual. That's another theme for me, camera. But I am a little bit bummed by the headphone jack. I really thought they would go back after all the negative press they've received, especially since they're such a small player these days. They don't really have the room to make any mistakes. And they're digging in on this one, and I'm not convinced that's the right thing to do. But at least the jack, the adapter is included. I can finally listen to this phone's audio with my own devices, and I'm looking forward to that. So, moving on, what is the next thing we wanted to talk about? I want to know what phones are in your pocket. I think were one of the things. Tell me what you're rocking right. Because but preface for those people who don't know this podcast, because it's brand new. Well, you shouldn't know this podcast. But the thing is that there's a history to this podcast. In that. I was at Engadget for a long time, and I did podcasts there as the Engadget Mobile Podcast. And Richard was often on the show, and thanks for being my first guest, by the way. You rock.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's kind of a reunion. I'm going to try to have everyone else on, like Vlad and Brad and everybody. But basically, we would do these podcasts and nerd out. And I continued trying to do this after I left Engadget, but unfortunately, because of logistics and travel and all that, I couldn't do it weekly. And so this attempt, by having the support of World Podcasts, is to make this a weekly show and just make it simple, just audio, no live video like I was trying to do. I was a little overambitious, I think. But we've been doing this for a long time, and we all carry a lot of, we're complete phone nerds, me and Richard. We carry a lot of phones at any given time in our bags, in our pockets.
We always try to outphone each other.
I know, and remember the photos we used to stage on our bed?
You always win, though.
Anyway, no, I don't know about that, mostly because I'm a hoarder. You know how many phones I have to send back for the last 2 years? I haven't done a purge in a while, and I need to send back a whole bunch of phones. It's ridiculous. But anyway, what's in your pocket kind of like lately that you're really excited about, that you've been using, that are your kind of like go-to devices?
Oh, I can't say, okay, I'm just going to mention what it is first. It's a Chinese phone. You've probably never heard of it before, but it's called the brand is called Smartisan, so like smart and artisan.
Yeah, no, I remember the Smartisan. You talked to me about it.
So they've launched a new phone recently. It's called the U2 Pro, and it's a mid-range device.
Hey, they should have done a partnership with Bono.
Yeah, sorry. You're breaking up a little bit. Maybe it's because
you're back. We lost each other.
Yeah. So this
you're
is
back.
a
I can hear you.
Device, a mid-range device running on Snapdragon 625 or something like that, and it's the overall design. It's like a mix between the iPhone 4 and iPhone 5, but it's a dual-sided glass kind of design.
So is it small?
The chamfer, it's got a really, really thin chamfer along the top side and bottom sides, and that's kind of plated with a bronze kind of color. So it's got I want to call it the Bang & Olufsen kind of feel to it.
Okay, cool.
It's black and it's got those bronze rims. So that's so that's interesting.
Is it small though? Like you said, iPhone 4 size.
No, it's a 5.5-inch device.
Okay, got it.
1080p display, and so I think it doesn't feel, it's not the most comfortable phone to hold because the edges are pretty sharp. But personally, I don't think it's like it's not as bad as the HTC M9, the silver version. I don't know if you ever got to play with that.
I did, and it cut you.
Yeah. Yeah. So this one here, it's there's a bit of that going on, but after a while, I started to get used to it. But still, it still kind of bothers me once in a while. But this is more about the software, the UI, because it's hard to describe over a podcast. I need to show this on video someday. But
can they see it on Engadget? Is it on there already?
I've only done the Chinese version because this takes a bit of explaining. Yeah. But long story short, they take a very, very unique approach to the Google UI. It's a special grid-like system. And they've added some shortcut features that, again, it's going to take a while to explain. But I think let me explain it quickly. A lot of I'm sure it's the same for you. A lot of times you want to copy some text from one app and then enter the other app and paste it there, right? Do you do that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah. What if I tell you that this phone lets you do that in without having to? Well, it's able to let you do that, but saving you 2 or 3 steps. What you do on this phone is, first of all, you drag, you pull down from any of the top 2 corners to launch these shortcut bar on one side, and then you drag the highlighted text, literally drag it to any of the shortcuts on either the left side or the right side, and then you let go, and then the text is automatically pasted into your desired app.
That's cool.
You following me?
Yeah, totally get it. Yeah, no, I was trying to imagine how you could simplify it, because I'm like, and that's a really smart way to do it. I like it.
Yeah, and you can do the same with images. You can do the same with images from a browser or from a image selector from the top, because there's a button where you can click images and you can drag any image from the gallery to any of the apps on the left bar or the right bar. And
so it's the ultimate drag and drop, is what you're saying.
Ultimate drag and drop, and they have a button for reverse image search, so you can drag that image to that app, and it'll automatically upload to a search engine to do an image search. So that's pretty cool.
Cool.
And there's a dictionary feature as well, so you can hover this cursor over certain words to do an instant translation from English to Chinese or vice versa. But the only problem is a lot of these features are not fully compatible with the Google apps, because this being a Chinese phone, they need Google support to kind of
make it happen. Yeah,
compatibility.
That's the bummer. That's the thing about Chinese phones. There's a lot of really cool stuff there, but oftentimes it's either confusing or doesn't work with the Western universe simply because they don't support Google Play services or whatever. No, it's just we all know it's a different ecosystem.
I'm just
we only have about 13 minutes left, so I want to kind of like see what else you've been using, because I have a kind of an ulterior motive here. I recently reviewed the Galaxy S8 and 8 Plus for ChipChick. I do monthly reviews at ChipChick. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to brag, like sell them or whatever. It's just that they are one of the publications I do work for. And I also did the G6 for them. And that's kind of what I'm wondering what you think of these phones. But tell me what else is in your pockets.
So before this, I was using the LG G6 for some time. And I really, really, really like it. It's like,
I love it.
It's like I don't necessarily need the absolute latest Snapdragon processor in it.
I agree.
But it turns out that you're going to get a really, really well-made device. And that's from LG, which, after the G5 and they had some mishaps with the with the G4 and
oh my God, the G5 was, you know what I wrote in my review that every odd numbered G phone is kind of crap. Except the first one. The original Optimus G was great. The G2 was awesome. The G3 was kind of meh. It was a repeat of the G2 in many ways. The G4 was awesome. The G5, meh. The G6, amazing. I love that phone so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so G6...
You know what? I have sad news, by the way.
What?
I have sad news about my G6. I need to share with you. So Ken gave me... So, you know, when we were at Mobile World Congress... you weren't there this year, right?
No.
Oh, that was so sad. But when we were at Mobile Congress, the U.S. media, us, got these pre-production U.S. compatible G6s. So they were unlocked, but the same as the kind of G6s the carriers would eventually sell. With the right bands, with wireless charging and all that.
Yep,
and
I have one.
They were either black or gray, whatever the dark color is, or they were the silver bluish color. And I got a silver bluish one. I was all excited. I ran into Ken. Ken, in case you guys don't know who Ken is. Ken Hong is the head of, head of global PR for LG? Is that what he is? I mean, he's up there in the LG ecosphere. And Ken takes me aside and goes, Miriam, can I have your silver and blue? Like, he saw me holding it. And I'm like, why? He goes, I love it. It's the best color ever. And I can't get one. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, I have a white and gold for you. Mm-hmm. You know what happened next, right? Like, I lost my mind. White and gold. Bling! I love white phones.
Yeah.
So it turns out that the white and gold he had was also US bands and had the wireless charging. So it was essentially a unicorn one-off. At least he might have had more than one, but it was a very rare kind of unique US version because we don't officially get the white color in the US. So he says, I'll trade ya. And I'm like, bend my rubber arm. So I gave him the blue one. He gave me the white one. And I reviewed that and I used it. And I made a note in my review that it was not an official US color, but it was unicorn. And 2 days ago, I pulled the phone out of my pocket. I've been using it pretty much nonstop since Mobile Congress. And the back glass is shattered.
Oh, no.
I did not drop it. I did not sit on it. I did not bang into something. It just spontaneously shattered. So, it's pre-production. So I think it's potential that there was some pre-stress in the glass and it just got pushed in the right way and just went crack. And so now I can't use it because it's shedding shards of glass and I'm so sad because I love my G6 and this was so rare and unique and beautiful and I had babied it. Oh no. Whiny. I'm whiny now. Sorry, Richard. But I needed to share this with my audience because everybody follows me on Twitter and everything, and they know how much I love my white G6. So, of course, the folks at LG are amazing, and they're trying to hook me up with an unlocked device. It won't be a white one because it has to be a US device, and now that they're in production, they can get me one. But it's sad, and I'm very sad sauce. And I just wanted to let everybody know the G6 is no longer the unicorn G6. But I'm glad you love the phone because look, I think it's a phenomenal balance of everything. It's just really well rounded, and to me, and I love the Galaxy S8 a lot. I was really impressed with this year. You know, I'm very critical of Samsung and Galaxy phones in general, but I was really impressed. And the thing though that vexed me about the Galaxy S8 is the lack of dual camera because once you use the wide angle, right? You don't want to go back.
You can't go back. That's what I found. You can't go back. It's so useful, very useful. Especially,
it's amazing.
Yeah, especially for us tech journalists. Yeah. Yeah,
you know, my recommendations on my review was like, if you need a dual camera and you want you love the idea of the wide angle or you've used it before on, say, like the G5 or the V20 and you want it again, go buy a G6. And if you want to save a bit of money, go buy a G6 because it's about $100 cheaper in the US than the Galaxy S8. I'm talking about unlocked pricing. But honestly, I was blown away by the Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus in every way. Like not just the hardware, because the hardware is obviously very unique. But wow, Samsung did right this year.
Except for the fingerprint reader. Come on.
Well, that's obviously the bad thing, and you know why, right? Because they were planning to put it under the glass, and at the last minute they didn't.
Under screen.
And who came up with the boneheaded decision to, at the last minute, since they didn't have the fingerprint reader on the front, to say, oh, we'll put it like in the cluster where the camera is. Like, why not put it like the G6 or the Pixel, like halfway, like 2/3 of the way down, whatever it is, like much further down, right?
Yeah.
Crazy. Because you know what? The retina scan does not work for me because I have glasses, and half the time it doesn't work. And if something doesn't work half the time, you don't use it. Remember the early fingerprint readers sucked, and we never used them. So I'm very vexed by that. Vexed is the word of this podcast, I think. Anyway, but yeah, guys, what's your thought on Galaxy? You used it. You have one, right?
The what? No, I have not. But you know what? It's still not available in Hong Kong yet. Well, first of all, it's not available in Hong Kong yet. We're still waiting for the Snapdragon version. So,
but you have all the connections.
Well, I don't want to abuse such connections.
It's true. You don't ever want to abuse a connection. But look, get your hands on one because I went to do it very skeptical. I was like, okay, it's a Galaxy, whatever. Everybody's going to buy this phone, right? Like, I know that I don't have to sell this phone or even if I pan this phone, people are just going to buy it. No matter what my opinion is on my review, this phone's going to sell like hotcakes, right? So let's look at it skeptically. And I was just, within a day of using it, I was like, holy crap, Samsung. You have redefined what the future of phones are. And I think the G6 did that in its own way a little bit already, but it feels like a prototype Galaxy S8 to me, the G6, right?
That's not fair. No, come on.
That's how, no, look, I'm not saying that to be mean. That's how it feels to me. And I'm not the only one who said that. Like other tech journalists have said it too. I feel like they kind of went there and then they kind of didn't go all the way.
Well,
Samsung just went like, boom.
I'm gonna have to flip this around and give my perspective.
Okay.
Because G6, in every single way, I can bet you $100 that is a way more durable device than the S8. If you drop the S8,
that is true.
Yeah. So LG
look, I'm not arguing with you. I'm talking about the evolution of the phone design. The Galaxy S8 stands out as a unique looking thing. The G6. Even if you have the black one that you can't really see the screen because it doesn't stick out because the bezel is the same color, you kind of go like, okay, it's a white screen, but it doesn't really immediately go like, what is that? Like you see the Galaxy S8 and you're like, is this from another planet? Like it looks otherworldly to me. Like it stands out. Like the app, everything else looks like an iPhone these days to me. Like the Pixel looks like an iPhone, The G6 certainly doesn't, but it looks very generic phone. Whereas I think the Galaxy just stands out so much because of the combination of curves on both, anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree. The G6 is, it needs a bit more of that design juice in a way. But
and that's what I mean. Like they went kind of like 80% with the design juice, and then they stopped and like, oh, we can't get too crazy here because we gotta, succeed after the mess that was the G5. But whereas Samsung was like Samsung had to succeed after the mess of the Note 7, but they still went ballsy and decided, hey, let's go all out here. The only thing they screwed up is a fingerprint reader, but now I've gotten used to it and it's not a huge deal. I'm surprised. It took a few days of muscle memory to get there, but holy crap, in every other way, that phone is so good. The sound quality on that phone. It's the first Samsung phone I've used where I'm blown away by what's coming out of the headphone jack, frankly.
Interesting.
Uh-huh.
That's the thing. You guys don't have the quad DAC on the US version.
We don't have the quad DAC on the G6. No, if I did, I have the quad DAC on the V20. It is the best sounding phone by far of any phone. It blows away the HTC 10, which at the time was the best sounding phone I've ever had. I had ever heard. The G6, the V20 blows it away. The quad DAC blows it away. So if you have a G6 with a quad DAC, you're good to go. But the Samsung, the S8 sounds surprisingly good for just a generic Qualcomm 835 DAC. Really surprised by that. Like Qualcomm's done their homework, unless it's Samsung did something. I don't know. What other phones are you kind of used recently, or are you using?
After the Smartisan, I'm going to move on to the Xiaomi Mi 6. I do have a Mi 6. You are lucky. It's even the ceramic edition with the 18-karat gold rims around the cameras.
I hate you, but in a friendly way.
In a loving way.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, and that to me is probably how I probably have the same feelings as how you feel about the S8 when I first saw it. It's such a slick design. I know,
it looks
like you said, a lot of phones, if you look at from the front, the contour reminds you of the iPhone 8. I think the Xiaomi 6 has just a tiny little bit of that, but if you look closer, that whole, it's so nicely made because it's got a stainless steel frame. It's not aluminium. So,
nice.
So it's heavier, but way more durable. And then there's this sexy ceramic back. Curved ceramic back
Very
design.
Cool.
So the entire device is very sexy looking. And then obviously there's the Snapdragon 835 inside, so looking forward to that.
Okay.
And then it's also got the dual camera. They're using a similar implementation as the iPhone 7 Plus, which is you have the normal camera, and you've got the 2 times quote unquote zoom camera.
Interesting.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, so, you know what? We obviously can't get this phone here, which is too bad. I finally got a Mi Note 2, whatever, the latest Mi Note.
Yep.
I love it. It's really nice, but I have a feeling this is going to blow it away.
The thing with the Mi Note 2 is, so I like the fact that it's got I think it's got the world band, global bands.
Correct. Yeah, that's why they gave me one.
Exactly. Yeah.
And mine has Google Play services on it, so mine is obviously like maybe an Indian model or something.
Yeah, Indian or Polish, some European ROM. Yeah.
I mean, it's cool.
Yeah. The only problem I have with the Mi Note 2 is that the camera, I think it's like a 21, 22 megapixel camera, but I just wish it was something.
Yeah, it's kind of meh. The camera is meh. It doesn't have OIS. That's the biggest problem, I think.
Yeah.
I have a feeling they're about to do a lot of noise upstairs. My daily driver is a Pixel XL, which I reviewed for Chip Chick in the fall, and I have not I switched from my Nexus 6P. You know, I've always been a Nexus person. And honestly, don't buy, you should read this great article by Dave Ruddock of Android Police.
Yep.
About why you shouldn't buy a Pixel right now. Mostly because it's not available, and because with the G6 and the Galaxy S8 showing us the way of the future, the Pixel 2 should be hopefully in that same kind of realm. Hopefully a ultra wide screen or something like that. And you probably want to wait for that because it's hard to, as great as the Pixel is, yes, if you're going to get the updates right away. The camera is amazing. It is a chunky phone for its size and a boring phone for its size, design-wise. And when you see what you can do with the G6 and its dual camera, and when you see the beauty that is Galaxy S8, it's hard to resist those two phones right now. It's a tough time to buy a phone if you are a purist that wants a pure Nexus-like, Pixel-like experience, because you can't find the Pixel and because it is a little obsolete-ish now, despite being still a very solid device. So, those are my phones. Pixel.
Well, that's a great segue to I don't know how much time left we have, but Google I/O.
Well, let's talk about it really briefly, but I just wanted to really quickly enumerate. I have the Pixel XL, I have the G6, which is now broken, sadly, so I put the SIM in the U Ultra to kind of like reminisce myself of HTC's universe until I get my U11. And then I have the Galaxy S8. I had an S8 and S8 Plus. I'm using the Plus right now because I like the larger screen. And that's it for the 4 phones because I have 4 pockets. I usually have 4 phones. I also have a Moto G5 Plus, which I really like. And
I got to play. I finally got to play it because we just had the Moto G5 launch in Hong Kong literally a few days ago.
Oh, cool.
And it is so good for
the money.
Price.
You can't go wrong. I mean, if you guys and actually Dave suggested, he said, if you have to buy a phone because your phone is broken and you need something in the interim until you see what the Pixel 2 brings to the table, buy a G5 Plus from Moto because it's 90% of the Pixel's experience for half the price, or not half, maybe a bit less, a bit more than half, but for really dirt cheap. And it's as pure as you can get. And who cares if it's not going to get updates because you're going to buy a Pixel 2 in 6 months. Or 4 months, 3 months, whenever it is now. September? October? So let's talk about I/O, right? I mean, I just wanted to quickly say, because we don't have time to talk about it, I was at Microsoft Build last week, and me and Paul Spain, Paul is the head of the World Podcast Network, discussed it on his podcast on this on the website on worldpodcast.com. His podcast is called the New Zealand Tech Network. Sorry, New Zealand Tech Podcast, NZ Tech Podcast. We discussed Microsoft Build. If you want to find out what I saw at Microsoft Build and what Microsoft announced there, go listen to his podcast, the New Zealand Tech Podcast, here on World Podcasts. But I.O., I'm going to go there tomorrow, and I'll be there for the next 3 days. What do we expect there, Richard? I've been trying to stay away from the rumors. I want to get excited and blown away about what they announce. Obviously, Android O. Do you know anything else we should be seeing there?
Well, like you mentioned, hopefully we'll be seeing a new Pixel. Hopefully. I think it's
You think they're going to announce it at I.O.?
Well, it's about time, right? I think it's about time.
No, it's always in October.
It's
always in October.
Well, I don't know.
Last year was the year before. Since the Nexus 4, it's been October for all the Nexuses and Pixels. You know, you're right though. They could announce a Pixel 2 now and then blow everybody away.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to hop onto that Snapdragon 835 wave, then why not? I don't know. Or maybe it doesn't have to be a flagship Pixel, can it? Well, I guess actually Pixel has to be flagship. I don't know. Pixel, Daydream.
Let's start rumors, Richard. How about a Galaxy S8 Developer Edition? Ooh.
Yeah. But yeah, I think.
No.
I think I'm mainly interested in seeing what's new for Android O because, quite frankly, some of the new not many of the new features in Nougat, is that how you pronounce it? Android N.
Nougat. Nougat.
They're not. It's less wow factor.
I agree with you, 100%.
Yeah, but they are.
But I mean, look,
they are good. They do come in handy.
Well, I mean, look, O is coming for sure. N was, I think, a solid update. They're always solid updates. I'm just kind of wondering, have you heard of anything that's supposed to really stand out and make O unique?
I have not. Personally, I have not heard much, to be honest.
So, this is maybe a good segue for me to say, wait until next week's podcast where we will talk all about Google I.O. And I will let you know as soon as I know who the guests will be. I've got a few people on the burner here that are interested in coming on, so we'll make it happen. Why don't we wrap it up, Richard? Because I know you're very tired. You've only slept 3 hours, and you've been at it for hours since the HTC U11 launch. And I need to get away from this noise and wrap this podcast up. Plug yourself. Tell us where people can find you, what you do, who you are, the meaning of life, all that stuff.
I have nothing on the meaning of life, but you can come check out Engadget.com. I'm one of the writers there, one of the many writers there. I'm also on Twitter. I'm at Richard Lai, Richard Lai. And that's pretty much it. I tweet a lot, so you've been warned.
And it's awesome. Also, I want to say you're the Editor-in-Chief of Engadget Chinese. You're based in Hong Kong. That means you have access to these incredibly cool phones like the Smartisan you just talked about and like the Mi 6 that we're all very jealous you have your hands on. Follow Richard if you aren't on Twitter. I mean, awesome stuff. For me, just so you guys know, when we don't want to create a handle for this podcast on Twitter because I'm super active on Twitter as well. So find me on Twitter at Tankgirl. That's Tankgirl like the comic book character without the vowels. TNKGRL at TNKGRL. The hashtag for this podcast is a little weird because it's the Mobile Tech Podcast, but the hashtag is TechMobCast. So like mob as in mobile and cast. So hashtag Tech MOB cast, because the bad habit we took at Engadget to call the mobile podcast the Mobcast. I thought, hey, let's grab Tech Mobcast as the hashtag for this podcast. So follow me on Twitter, and if you want to find information about this podcast, the URL is techmobilepodcast.com. And, again, we're on the World Podcast Network, worldpodcasts.com, handle World Podcasts on Twitter. So it's at World Podcasts. That's where you'll get more information about what we're up to and also what the other podcasts are on the network. There's a bunch, some tech, some about cooking, as we've already covered. Stay tuned for next week's. We'll talk all about I.O. After I.O. this week, I am in Taipei next week. So after that, we'll talk about Computex. There'll be some phones announced there. Are you looking forward to anything at Computex, Richard?
Maybe.
I put you on the spot, didn't I?
No, it just feels like it's getting quieter and quieter each year. That's all.
Yeah, it's not a phone show, right? But there's always some interesting Android type stuff there. That's why I kind of brought it up. I will see you in Taipei, and I will see the audience you will hear us or me next week. We publish Thursday mornings. It's U.S. time, so stay tuned for something in your RSS feed /podcatcher every week. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for World Podcasts for hosting me. Stay tuned for next week's podcast, and signing out. Cheers. Bye, Richard.
Bye.
This has been the Mobile Tech Podcast with Tank Girl, proudly presented by worldpodcasts.com. You can visit us online at mobiletechpodcast.com.